Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Jacoby from Papa Roach, and you are tuned in to Side Jams with Bryan Reesman.
Greetings, everyone. This is Bryan Reesman, host of Side Jams, and our guest today is Joel Hoekstra. So for those of you who don't know, Joel is a guitarist extraordinaire who's played while he plays with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which I think is one of the biggest touring acts, period, all year long. Whitesnake, obviously. Well, now you're in Revolution Saints, right, with Dean Castronovo and Jeff Pilson, and Iconic, I think, with Michael Sweet from Stryper, plus Joel Hoekstra's 13. Well, thank you for taking time to chat today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I know first we got to talk about the new album, which I'm enjoying quite a bit, actually. You know, it seems like you and Nuno Bettencourt, particularly lately, want to keep the shred alive. You know, lots of fast-paced, exciting guitar work.
Yeah. I ended up just doing that set on the Monsters of Rock cruise with Nuno, where he played djembe, and he asked me to play acoustics. So that was kind of fun. We got to hang a little bit and rehearse together and, just to hang out a bit. He's a great dude.
It was interesting. I'm like, oh, you've got this other great guitar player who's like playing percussion.
Life sometimes is stranger than dreams, where you're like, I had this bizarre dream because I was up in production prior to rehearsal, and Nuno couldn't find the djembe, and since I was in production, I got them to track it down, and I ended up wheeling it down to his cabin, and I thought, in that moment, I just thought, this is so bizarre. Wheeling a djembe down a hallway on a cruise ship to Nuno's room to rehearse this acoustic set, and just, sometimes life is stranger than fiction.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting. You and I met very briefly. Whitesnake was touring with Foreigner, and you played Jones Beach several years ago. So I think you guys had just come off stage. You're not going to remember that, but I remember you being rather tall, and I'm thinking, well, that's rather appropriate for basketball, which you actually do play every year on the Monsters of Rock cruise. I was looking up. You have this Rockers versus Average Joes competition that goes on. I wanted to find out what that was all about.
Yeah. So my Bloody Mary Hangover Jam set on there has become kind of a tradition where one of the mornings I give away free Bloody Marys to everybody that comes, and I give away free merch between every song, and it's just kind of like I'm like the Santa Claus of the cruise at 10 in the morning. Get everybody buzzed and play some fingerstyle acoustic guitar before we start bringing people up and rock out a bit. So that was a tradition, and while I was on the boat, I started playing some people one-on-one in basketball, and I noticed that, we developed a special bond, and that they were more thrilled with that than they were to necessarily go into any of the shows. So I went into Larry Morand, who's the guy who runs the cruise and dear friend of mine, and said, hey, I think we should do a thing where, people can sign up to play me one-on-one and make this a thing. And so he said, well, that sounds like a good idea. And so as it led into year one, what happened is a lot of other rockers started to hear about this and said, I want in, So it was like next thing they were telling me Richie Kotzen wants in, Jeff Scott Soto wants in. And so we started, I think the first year we did it, we did 4-on-4 half court. And the rockers came out on top. We won, but it was very informal. We just, street clothes, just kind of like whatever you had, your gym outfit. And then we followed it up the next year. Joe Wright, who runs Right Rock merch, made uniforms for everybody. And we did the Rockers versus the Cruisers full court, which I thought, oh my gosh, all right, we're getting serious here now with this. And then it was a couple years off it due to COVID. And then this year we resumed. And the Rockers have won all 3 times, I'm proud to say.
So it's just regular cruise goers sign up, and is there people have to try out, or is it just people who?
No, I think you can sign up. I'm not sure how it works for the cruisers. I think with the rockers, as they sign up, they just kind of ask. They did kind of a smart thing this year where the teams were pretty big. In past years, we just only really had like 5 people, and you'd run full court the whole game, which was like, oh my gosh, and the heat, you're on the deck of the boat, and like this year there's a lot of subbing out, so nobody was going to drop dead out there.
Oh, so it's like more like a professional game now. Where everyone's got their team.
Yeah, I mean, you could tag out, you could sub out whenever there was a stop and play, and so
Yeah.
we just kind of made sure everybody kind of got a little time out there and spread it out. So I would say I think we played 4 8-minute quarters. So, but of the 32 minutes, I probably only played 16 of them or something. It's like
Yeah.
really quite reasonable.
Well, it seems like the whole point of doing something like Monsters of Rock is to have a bit of bonding with fans. You're getting a little more up close and personal. I mean, that acoustic set you did with Gabriella and Nuno, obviously it's like a simple stage setup. You're right there. Is there in a lot? I'm assuming there's a lot of fan interaction that you have both off stage and off the court.
Yeah,
And
oh, absolutely. On the boat there, it's every 10 steps. I call it like a floating NAM show. I don't know if you've ever been to the NAM show,
I
but
know all about Nam. Yeah,
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 when you're an artist and you go to the NAM show, it can take an hour to walk down one hallway, because you get stopped so often. And the cruise is a lot that way. There's a lot of, while you're walking from place to place, like, will you sign this? Can I get a picture with you? And and that's fine. That's what we're there for, and that's why people go, because you're not just going to go see a concert and have somebody be, just there. You see them, they're this tiny dot on stage and they're gone at the end of the night. This kind of
yeah.
is your opportunity to meet people and hang with them and spend a little bit of time. It's almost like a giant paid meet and greet in a way. And that's fine. It works fine for me.
Is it fun to play basketball with the fans?
I love it. Yeah, because it kind of just reduces everybody to just being, what we are, human beings. I mean, it's like there's not this divide between like, oh, this guy's in a band and this guy's not. It's just
Yeah.
they're just like a couple people hanging out, like shooting baskets. That's the way it really should be.
Now, who's on your team this year?
So Gary Sharon and Nuno Betancourt and Jeff Scott Soto were really kind of the main, kind of like core guys that have done it year after year. And then there were some that I've just never met from other bands. And I was like, I don't know what band they're even in, but they're on the team. So it's a pretty big team. It might have been even exceeded 12. I mean, we had a lot of people. And I think to balance it out, like, because I think maybe they had a lot of cruisers sign up too, that they actually gave us some of the cruisers.
Yeah, yeah.
The cruisers actually played for our side. Just we're obviously at a disadvantage with that. You've got far more people going on the cruise that want to play basketball than people in bands. So, okay.
Yeah. So when did you first start playing basketball?
So I was in a little league, if you will, like 1 year when I was a kid. I kind of wasn't that into it. And then I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. So then the whole Michael Jordan thing happened, and that kind of changed everything around that area. That popularized basketball to, just a whole new level. Everybody was following the Bulls. And I remember when I went to GIT, Guitar Institute of Technology, which is a division of Musicians Institute. It's in Hollywood, California. That's right. My first time really away from home. I did that at 19 years old. Well, one of my friends, we would make it a thing to go play one-on-one every day on the rooftop of Hollywood High School. So we'd get done doing all our guitar courses or whatever, and we'd go play one-on-one. And then that's really where I started. And then I played in a lot of pickup games, and my time back in Chicago, pretty much every day, did a lot of teaching. At the end of every day, I'd pretty much go play at the Y and run like full court with people there, or play half court if it was what we did. Or so I spent a lot of time playing there, and I still go. It's been kind of light the last year because work has gotten really, really heavy. But prior to that, I still go down and play in pickup games and things like that, and still enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I played Little League baseball as a kid, but
Me too. I was actually better at baseball when I was a kid. I wanted to be a pitcher, and I was really in my Little League the top pitcher. I was like, because that's all I used to do. I mean, I used to throw the ball all day. I'd like pitch against my garage, and I'd pitch to my friend who would be the catcher, and my team won the World Series a couple times, and I was definitely in love with that when I was a kid. That was what I wanted to do prior to guitar. And then as it worked out, everybody else kind of started to grow before me, and I started to be less good at baseball. And right at that time, I kind of discovered rock, and guitar started up, and so suddenly I had like a new love and something I knew that I wanted to do with my life.
I'm wondering, like, when you're playing basketball on this cruise before you have a set, or when you're playing basketball in general, you do have to worry about injuring yourself, right? Because if you hurt one of your arms or your hand, you jam your finger, then it's going to affect your guitar playing. So how cognizant are you of that when you're doing that?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I stopped for a long time. So I kind of refrained from actually playing in games. I would go shoot on my own, and for fun, I used to upload on social media just shots of me just like shooting out on the court, and like where I'd get on a good run and make a bunch in a row, and I'd post it, and that's where fans kind of saw this other side of me and got a kick out of it. And actually, I broke this pinky on a Whitesnake tour.
Ouch.
I didn't know it was broken at the time.
Really?
I played in a game, and I went, oh man, my finger hurts, but it's still at like all the movement. So I just iced it, and I thought, this is a jam, or it's like a sprain or something. I just didn't in any way or shape or form think I broke it, but it never healed properly. So I obviously broke it. I mean, I kept playing the gigs. Picking in the right hand, I use sometimes when I tap, or sometimes when I hybrid pick, where I'll use the pick and the fingers.
Yeah.
And I could still do everything. So that's what was weird, was it was broken. It obviously healed all messed up. I can't straighten that. But, it was never enough to really alter the gigs in any way, shape, or form. I just kept doing the tour, so.
Yeah, it's not as bad as Richie Faulkner playing Painkiller and then suddenly has like a ruptured aorta or something.
No.
That's
That's a whole different thing. And actually, Nuno Betancourt did get hurt in the game this year, and actually a serious knee injury. So I think it affected their schedule. I know they canceled M3 because of it. And
oh, wow.
Our acoustic gig was immediately after the game, and it was dicey whether or not he was going to do it. And I think he got up there, and he was obviously able to sit to play djembe, but then Extreme's final set up there, he did sit because he couldn't stand with his guitar. So hopefully he's healed up and ready. I think their tour was really mainly later this year.
Yeah.
But he did actually get injured in the game, which is like a shame. I think he's had a knee injury in the past, and it just kind of reoccurred.
Yeah, it's tricky, man, especially as we get older. It's like you can't quite snap back immediately, like when you're 25, and it's like, hey, I'll do it next week. And yeah, I mean, I mean, obviously height is an advantage. I think you're 6'2", or
yeah, a little over 6'2", 6'3". I'm kind of like in between. Yeah.
So have you ever played with shorter players that were really impressive? You were like, wait, they shouldn't. They get around you, or like. Because it seems like height is a big deal for a lot of NBA players. I remember when they got Manute Bol, they were just happy that he was like, he was like
7'7". Yeah. Or 7'6", I think Manute was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all the time. I mean, I play against people all the time. Like during TSO rehearsals, there's a YMCA nearby, and there's been a couple years where it was the norm for me to go play at the Y there. And I've played one-on-one against a lot of people over the years. So, I mean, I usually come out on top, but like there's every once in a while you meet people that are just quick and fast, and especially the older I get, the less quick I am. And so, but I did stick it to a younger kid. Like pretty recently, he was talking some smack in a game, and then I talked back to him and told him I could beat him, I could take him, and then so we stopped the game, and we had everybody in the game kind of got around the court and like watched the old man take on the young kid one-on-one, and I did beat his ass, so felt pretty good.
So yeah, no, it's I think of all the professional sports that I guess out of all of them, maybe basketball might be the most graceful, actually.
I think that basketball is the most visually friendly game. I think baseball, it comes down to the education of understanding pitch by pitch actually makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like and that tends to happen in the crowd reaction once the playoffs start. So you realize, the percentages are changing when a count is 0-2 versus 2-0. And you realize batters' averages and the likelihood of them getting a hit. So that's when you begin to realize that every pitch is important. You're not just sitting around waiting for something to happen in the at-bat. There's actually, you're playing the game of percentages throughout. So, those are still my favorites, and football would probably be third, but I kind of fell away from that since I moved to New York City, really, because for that period in time, there wasn't this, like, subscribe and watch the Chicago Bears. I grew up in Chicago, so I'm a Chicago fan of Bulls, Cubs, and Bears. But it seems like I always have a gig on Sundays. Like I had these theater gigs for a couple of years. When I moved out here, I did the show about Janis Joplin. So, 2 shows a day on Sunday, that meant you're not watching football. And then I did that show, and other shows on the road on Sundays. Trans-Siberian, we've always got 2 shows on Sundays. So it seems like I've always got this situation in my life where in football season, I'm extraordinarily busy gigging-wise on Sundays. So I've fallen away a bit from football, but I do enjoy that as well.
So, like, do you do any, like, fantasy leagues? And a lot of people like to do that with football for sure.
I don't. And mainly just because it wouldn't be as fun if I can't watch the game. Like, if I could watch the games, then I could be a little more actively involved and interested in it. Honestly, music is very consuming. That coupled with the fact that I'm a parent, and that's pretty much my life right there in a nutshell.
Is there anything that you can port over from basketball playing or into guitar playing, or vice versa? Are there any kind of movements or exercises or things that actually sort of work for both? Or do you find yourself kind of translating some of the moves unintentionally?
I wouldn't say there's much crossover outside of, obviously the more you can get yourself out and exercise, the better you're going to feel mentally. I've done a really poor job of that the last year. I went on a fantastic run there for about 7-8 years of exercising religiously, daily. And it's work has gotten to the point where it's like overwhelming a bit over the past year or two. It's just gotten to the point where, busier and busier. And so like I said, between that and parenting, it's pretty consuming. So I just do what I can as far as my side jams go.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's important to have those things. That's why I like to do this podcast, because it's interesting to me to find out how people sort of view things. And it seems like, despite the fact that you play on, some pretty big stages, you like to just be with regular people. You don't seem to have as much of that rock star thing, where you do actually like to go down. And I think Adam Sandler does that.
I'm one of those people that likes to, like, assume that persona, like, when I'm on stage. As you can see, like, this is how I walk around. Like, if I'm walking around New York City or whatever where I live, I'm not walking around dressed in my rock stage clothes. In fact, you couldn't pay me to do that. I'm only in that stuff when I'm on stage, and then I sort of assume that persona on stage for whatever reason. But this is more kind of like day to day who I am, kind of like track jacket, basketball jersey. It fits my lifestyle, and I'm glad. I don't have to. I got into this to, not have to wear a 3-piece suit and get on the subway every morning and do all that stuff or sit in traffic, and so it's fine. I like it.
Listen, sir, thank you. It was great to chat with you.
Yeah, likewise.
And
thank you so much.
We'll do a little more music next time, I think.
Yeah, all good, man. No worries.